Hi there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello there, and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths. My name is Jill Tiny, and I'm delighted to be with one of our newer members today, all the way from Brazil, although you might think there's not a Brazilian accent there. Aidan, welcome. Aidan, I never know how to pronounce your surname. How do I pronounce it?
It's Uttinger.
Uttinger. Welcome, Aidan. What are you doing in sunny Brazil?
I moved here about 2 years ago. My fiance is from here, so I've been living the Brazil life for the last year and a half, 2 years.
And would you recommend it? What's the most fun thing about Brazil?
Oh, there's so much I love about this place. The culture, the people, they're very fun, lively. They like to dance and have fun.
Yeah.
And I love the barbecue down here as well. It's always been my favorite, and here it's just prevalent. Every second restaurant is a charcoal barbecue place. So it just feels like it's my kind of place.
I can just smell walking down the road now. I can imagine it, what that smell must be like, as you kind of just going from one place to the next. That's amazing. And obviously your original home, I'm taking Australia, not New Zealand. I don't know.
No, it's New Zealand, actually.
New Zealand.
I've lived in Australia as well. So it's maybe 5 or 6 years. So it's my accent's, a little bit of a morph sometimes.
Thank you. I've just about sussed the difference between American and Canadian. So I'm still working on the difference between New Zealand and Australia. So thank you for being kind to me. Excuse me. Yeah. So Aidan, you've come to Collaboration Global. We were talking earlier before we came on. That was like, weren't really sure how we kind of connected, although you have sort of spotted somebody. So fortunately, somebody had a chat with me and thought that you and I should have a conversation. And basically, I loved what you're doing and you loved what I'm doing. So you've joined our community now at Collaboration Global. Just briefly, what was it that made you go, this is the place for me?
Really, I'm just, my whole project is all about collaboration and banding together. And it's something that I just don't think enough people do. We don't put enough emphasis on it. There's not enough out there. It's actually quite hard, I've found, to find places where you can find like-minded people that are heart-led and who, you can be inspired by. And I think, especially for me living in Brazil now, it's really important because I'm really disconnected from even people that speak my language. Whereas I used to have a very active social network and lots of people that are up to cool stuff. So I was actively searching for places where I could plug into every now and again to keep my sanity and maybe vent a few of my crazier ideas in front of.
Well, this is the good thing, is it doesn't matter how crazy the crazy idea is. At Collaboration Global, we generally go, oh, interesting. Tell me more. So when you told me about The Greatest Experiment, I was in love with it, totally, 100%, in that I had heard the science behind it. I had heard some of the stories before I'd met you about how powerful this thing called love is. And you've probably heard me say on many podcasts before, but also any of our meetings, we talk about Buckminster Fuller talked about ephemeralization, which is the theory of doing more and more with less and less. And he used to say the ultimate ephemeralization was love, because you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't feel it, but it's the most powerful, strong thing we have. And it's the one thing that connects every single human being on this planet. And for me, Collaboration Global is founded on love. So for when you come along and said, well, I'm working on the love experiment, I was like, I'm in. What's that all about? That's amazing. That's fantastic. So the fact that you said you wanted to join our community, I'm now so excited about promoting you and putting it out there. But before we carry on talking about how we're going to help each other along the way, just just start us at the beginning of how did this crazy idea, what is this crazy idea? How did it come about? And when was the point when you went, oh, I think I'm going to do this? What was the moment?
Yeah, well, I know exactly the moment when I decided I was going to do something to pay love forward to as many people as possible. And when I was a kid, I had a little, dysfunctional childhood, I guess, and I ran away from home quite young. I left just before my 16th birthday.
Oof,
And I
wow.
ended up finding myself, there's a bit of in between in the story, but to save time,
Mm.
I ended up finding myself an illegal alien in a third world country in the Philippines, with no money and nowhere to
Oh.
live, no family. And a Filipino family took me in and sort of unofficially adopted me. And, I always say that I feel like they saved my life. And I remember one day sitting down with my Filipino dad and asking him how I could ever repay him for saving my life. And he told me that when I'm in a position to pay their kindness forward or pay the deed forward to somebody, to consider the debt repaid. And that just struck me as such a beautifully simple request. And the more I thought, I made a promise to myself in that moment that I was going to find a way to pay it forward to so many people, because I wanted to show him the gravity of what it meant for me. And I knew that there was not really any words I could tell him that could effectively convey what I was feeling. So
Yeah.
my soul made a promise to itself that at that moment, and that was over 20 years ago. So I knew I was going to do something along these lines, but it took me quite a long time to flesh out what it was. And I had a lot of growing and my own journey to be able to sort of, I guess, see the pieces that would lead me to come to the conclusion that this was the answer that the world needed and that I was put here to, to implement.
I love that because it's not see how it goes. Let's give it a try. It's not see how much money I can make out of this. It's a it sounds like, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you don't feel like you've got an option. It's like this is something that you were born to do. This is something that is resting on your heart and you want to get it out into the world. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much like that. I mean, you always have a choice, but from a deep soul level, I've had the gift of being able to sort of look from the outside in and see all the crazy events. Like, I ended up in the Philippines by closing my eyes and spinning a globe and landing
Whoa.
on it. Like, so the world was spinning past multiple times a second. I could have ended up anywhere, and I ended up exactly where I needed to be. And so I guess with a bit of time and a bit of perspective and contemplation, I've been able to sort of see, wow, it's really been my whole life's journey. And I'd find it hard to see how anyone else could have the same journey as I had in order to get this project or to come to the realization that this was it. So it feels very much like it was always supposed to be. And then a few years ago, I had an accident where I had an NDE. I crossed over, and I was shown very, very clearly that this was what I was supposed to do there. So that was the final nail in the coffin. I already knew about it before, but I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I was sort of
Yeah.
waiting for the right time. But after that accident and recovering, I was all in. So yeah, it's my soul, it's my purpose for being here.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that.
Yeah. I love that phrase you said, my soul made a promise to myself. It's if only
Yeah.
so many people in the world don't get that opportunity to have that assurity of why they're here and what legacy they're going to leave and the purpose that they were born. And you've been kind of, sounds like a dramatic way of finding out though, to be fair.
Yeah, very much so.
what
Yeah,
was
very
what was
much
the
so.
accident, if you don't mind sharing? What happened?
I was living in Bali, and I fell off the second story of the roof of our villa onto the concrete in a
Mm.
rainstorm. And yeah, I just cracked my head open and I was all by myself. And yeah, so
Oh,
it was amazing though. Like in hindsight, it's often the cracks are where the light sort of comes through, and uh there's so many things that happened as a result of that just I honestly have racked my brains, and I just don't think there's any other way in the world than having my accident at the exact time I did, where it would have set me on the course I did, because it sent me back to New Zealand when I left at 16.
mm.
I'd never spent more than a day there, and I got there just before COVID because my mum was looking after me while I recovered. And we had some healing to do. And then I'm there for a few weeks, and then they shut down not just the borders, they shut down our towns. So I was stuck in a small town with my mum for what ended up being over a year
Wow.
as a 40-year-old, 39-year-old male. So there's just no other way that I could think of that I would have ever been in a situation where I would have that forced time to heal the love that was perhaps missing from my mum and I's relationship. So it was
Well,
really a blessing. Yeah.
so it could have gone one or two ways, really. Could have either killed each other or mended the rift and made it better, and love found a way, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it became very clear to me that because my whole project is around love, it sort of came as a revelation to me during my healing process there that it was so important for me to heal the relationship or the love with the person that brought me into this world, because otherwise I wouldn't have the capacity to be able to hold the responsibility and the vision of bringing this to light, because it was too grand, and
Mm.
I get that now, and it's really like, so there's so many things like that that are just immense blessings that were very, very painful at the time.
Yeah. But you know what? Most people don't confront those. That most people sweep everything under the carpet because it's the easiest thing to do. And all you're doing is you're burying it deep inside of you that will resurrect itself at some point in some sort of illness of some sort or mental disability. And you end up getting stung further down the line. So you had a beautiful opportunity and you grabbed it with both hands. Is your mum a follower of what you're doing now? Does she approve of what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, she absolutely is. I
No.
don't know if she gets it from quite the same level, but she's very supportive and very loving, and yeah, she's very proud of what we're doing for sure.
Awesome. Well, I think we should tell everybody now. We've spoken around it enough. Tell us about this project that you are getting off the ground.
Yeah, so it's a non-profit, and it's called the World's Greatest Experiment. And I guess I guess what really drives me and what has driven me for a long time is, when you look at the world's biggest problems like poverty and mental illness and all the things that are plaguing us at the moment, I really feel that like the traditional way of charity or nonprofits just is never going to fix it. It's just like a band-aid solution that we do to make ourselves feel better. It seems like, people give a little bit when they feel generous. And that's all well and good, but I don't think anyone will ever solve the problem permanently if we don't come up with new models that can grow exponentially faster than the problem, and can grow in a way where the only way that they can do that is if the people that are giving get some benefit equal to or greater than what they're giving, right? Because otherwise, I just feel we need to somehow show the value of giving to a point where people can go, wow, I can give a lot more than I thought because the return is actually so much higher than I ever imagined. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve some of the world's biggest problems. We're starting with poverty. And we're doing that by trying to identify and prove the intangible value that every human carries with them in their heart. And what I mean by that is these people who live in poverty, to get them out of poverty and to get money to them when they're uneducated, they're illiterate in a lot of cases, they don't have access to basic things that they need. I realized we had to somehow identify a value in them that we could extract in a healthy way that would benefit people around the world in a way that would make sense for them to support the people in poverty. So
Mm.
what we decided to focus on was meditation and love, and I got really captivated with all the latest science, which is showing the power that focused, channeled love has when it's directed somewhere, to heal our bodies, to transform our physical world, like change the structure of water and make plants and trees grow faster and healthier and all this. And it just sort of struck me, what if we could teach these people in the third world how to meditate and send love using the latest scientific techniques and breakthroughs, and direct that love back towards the donors in a way where we could see we could measure over time if people and businesses who were receiving love in constant streams and massive amounts, if we could notice a measurable difference in their performance, their health, their longevity, all these things. So it's a very much a long-term play, but that's what we're trying to do. So people in our communities earn a livable income by sending love out to the people that are donating for them. So we have kids that are putting themselves through school now by sending love for an hour before school. So street kids whose parents couldn't go to school, their grandparents couldn't go to school, they couldn't certainly afford to send the kids to school. And now these kids are paying their own way through school just by sending love to people around the world. So it's an interesting concept that hasn't been done before.
I love it. Exactly. And there will be people listening to this that go, what? It's a bit weird. But as I say, I've heard some of the scientific experiments around this. Could you give us an example? Excuse me. Could you give us an example of one so people can understand when we talk about science has proven, blah, 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 blah? Give us an idea of what things people might be able to find if they want to go Googling.
Yeah, there's numerous ones. When it comes to the ability for love and meditation to heal bodies and crazy things like stage 4 cancers and diseases that should have no business being healed, Dr. Joe Dispenza is really he's at the cutting edge of that work, and he has a huge following now around the world, 5 or 6 million people, and the people that follow and know his work are diehard because they've seen it. And I've personally been to an event there where people are walking, many people there have recovered from that kind of seriousness of disease in the 7 days of meditation and love, So that's a really good one. But there's also much more simple experiments that have been done. Like I don't know if you've seen the experiment with the rice or the plants that school kids replicate all over the world. They get two identical plants and then they literally put them in the same control environment. But on one side, the kids send love and say nice things to the plant, and the other side, they send nasty words and bad vibes. And in every case, the plant that's given love lives exponentially longer and healthier and grows faster than the plant in the exact same conditions. So it's a very easy experiment. A lot of people who are big into gardening will tell you that they talk to their plants and send love to their plants, and they will tell you it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're really just tapping into this kind of stuff. And the final thing I'll mention is Dr. Masaru Emoto, who's famous for studying how love and energy affects water, and of course our bodies are 70+% water. So there's lots of science that backs this up. It's just nobody's ever measured and collected and channeled love in such a specific way before. So
brilliant. So whilst potentially the people that are donating to these schools, so they've got some opportunity to learn, these young people, and they're going to be sending love back. So do you anticipate that goes to the person and therefore the person becomes stronger and more physically capable? Or do you think some people are thinking, oh, well, if my business had some love, my business could grow? Do you, like an inanimate object could actually receive the love, or does it go through the person? I'm getting a bit technical here. I want to know the details.
no, well,
the person and then go on to, and then that enriched person can then create a better business. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, I think it can go to both, because love really is the lifeblood for us as humans. We can't survive without it. And a business is a living thing too. It needs love. You can see many examples of businesses that don't have love in them and they fall right over. So I absolutely believe it will work for all of them. And it's a bit of a foreign concept, streaming love to your business or streaming love to your customers, your products in a measurable way. But I think it will start to become normalized as we start to understand more and more about it. I mean, we're already seeing a massive shift towards people. Meditation, I think, was the fastest growing hobby in America last year. People are starting to understand the benefits of this stuff, and we're going to catch up. We're just we're a little bit early. Someone had to be first, but there's definitely enough people out there that get this and know the science and they'll be excited with what we're doing for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of my favorite books is by Michael Singer, a guy in the States, and he's written a book, he's written several, but the one that I've read is The Surrender Experiment. And it
Mm,
talks about his life and how he didn't do what he was expected to do, like going to college. And, he'd walk around barefoot, and in the middle of winter, he'd have his shorts on, and people are saying, you're crazy. He was living in his car, all the sorts of things that were totally not antisocial, but just not the norm. But what he did do even back then, which is probably, I don't know, 30 plus years ago, was meditate.
mm,
And the meditation allowed him to surrender to what was and be open to what could be.
mhm.
And as a result of that, and you read the stories, it's great, where he started from and where he ended up. I don't know if he was an actual billionaire or definitely a multimillionaire, several businesses, bought, sold, but still living in the forest. He did move out of his van eventually, but it's just like it is what it is. And he just followed what the meditation told him and just was open to possibility and what could happen. And I
Yeah.
think if you can, we all need to believe in something. We all need to have a faith in something. And if that faith is, that you've donated something to create a better life for somebody halfway around the world, and they are thanking you by sending you love, and you can sit in your house and just receive that, what could you do with that feeling that's come to you personally and from such a good place? It has to have a knock-on effect. I can't
Oh
imagine,
yeah.
you
And,
know,
and it's not crazy at all. What's crazy is that this kind of idea seems crazy to people at the moment. It's like
yeah,
we're under a mass hypnosis. It's like what's really crazy is the majority of people live their life imagining the worst thing to happen every day.
yes.
They're literally focusing on that. It's like that's crazy. Actually sitting back and going, let me do something good for someone and receive all this love and see what's possible in my life. That's actually what makes sense. It's just
Yeah,
we've got it all upside down right now, and we need to shift it because we're living a fear-based world. The media and everything is all driven by fear.
oh, it drives you
Um,
nuts, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, and we have to shift that, and this is an attempt to show people, because if we can quantify it, I think people generally know love is the right way, but it's easy to dismiss it when you don't have, I guess, the tangible evidence. It's all theory until one day when you find out, when you,
Well, I think
but
I think it becomes acceptable when the corporates can look at what you're doing and go, "Oh yeah, we can make money out of this. Let's take this on board." And it's
yeah,
like,
well, that's
mm,
yeah, that's it. That's it. I mean, if you can show that having love in your business makes you more profitable, which I absolutely believe that's what we're going to find out,
mm,
um, then perfect, because there's enough to go around right now. It's just that it's not being distributed in the right way. So yeah, I really believe that if we can show the real value that love's got, or at least give people a baseline value that they can go, wow, it's actually a bargain for me to help someone in need and get this love back. Like it just
yeah,
makes, I want to do it for me, my family, my business. Then we solve the problem. Once we get to a point like that, we solve the problem, because we're going past generosity and we're going into it's just an exchange of value, you know?
yeah. And this is the thing that the world is in a state at the moment because the thing that we see as valuable is the dollar, and it's like there's more to life than that. This isn't. It shouldn't all be. One of our speakers at Collaboration Global, Simon Anholt, is a government advisor, policy advisor, and he's written a book called The Good Country Equation. He says, why do our countries measure themselves against each other according to their GDP? It's all about the wealth of the country and the money that's generated. He said, why can't we measure how good we are to our citizens? Why can't we measure how good we are to the businesses within our communities? Why can't we measure how good we are to the visitors that come to our country? He said, and that would be a more profound measure of a country where people might want to go and visit and be there because they're number one in this chart rather than the wealthiest country in the world. And then, oh, hang on, they've got gun crime, they've got this wrong going on. There's so many things that aren't working in the country that seems to be the richest in the world because being the richest doesn't make them happy.
Absolutely not. Like there's different kinds of wealth, and your spiritual wealth is so important. You got to keep that in balance and check with your material. Like just, and it's something that is not being done very well at the moment. But
Yeah.
like an example is like, if you could have a choice, if I gave you the choice, if you can have a bank account with $100 million in it, and you
Hmm.
can have access to that, but you don't have, there's no more love for you. That's it. No love, no interaction with anybody. Or I tell you, you can have no dollars, but you can have an abundance of love and community. And I mean, you're going to choose the love, right? So we already know it deep
Mm.
down. We really
Mm.
do know it. But we don't live it for some reason. It's like this weird blockage that we seem to have.
Well, we've been
So
conditioned, haven't we? If you think about it,
yeah,
Aidan, that,
we have.
as you grow up, it's a fear, scarcity, and competition society that we live in. Whatever part of the world you're in, there is some element of that that's going on. There's a fear that you're not going to have enough. There's a scarcity that, there's not enough to go around for you. Is there going to be a roof over my head? Somebody might steal my IP. There's the competition element of like, he might grab my client and then I haven't got food in my belly. And it's just like, there's enough to go around. What if we took that fear, scarcity, and competition and transformed it into love, connection, and
Yeah,
abundance, the heart set of
yeah,
abundance? Those three elements themselves can transform our world. But you know what? There's not. How do you make money out of love, connection, and abundance? Oh, I don't know how to make money out of it. I know how to make money out of fear. Yeah, there's not enough to go around. I know how to make money out of scarcity. Let's have a Black Friday sale, shall we? Well, no,
yeah,
let's not. Let's just have decent prices the whole year round.
yeah.
Why can't we
Mhm.
do that? So
Yeah.
it's we are conditioned into this fear state and this negative way of looking at the world. Now, people that don't watch the news and people that don't read newspapers, good on you because you are missing all the negativity. But there will still be some overflow that gets to you eventually because it's out there. There is so much negativity. I consider myself a very positive person, right? I consider myself an optimist. So I've been accused of being an optimist, like it's a bad thing. And one day I thought, well, I'm such a positive person. I'm going to measure my thoughts and see how many negative thoughts I have just on a walk that I'm going on. I'm going to catch myself being negative. I think positive things all the time. Really? No. Jill went on a 4-minute walk from her front door to the station. And in 4 minutes, I counted, I don't know how many times I'd been negative. It was just
Mm.
glancing at a window going, oh, I don't like those curtains. Oh, look, there's a crack on the pavement. The council needs to get themselves together. That car was going too fast down the road. I was like, what? Just think of
Yeah,
something good. What's wrong with you? And
yeah,
we're just in this judgment and blame, and that's why Twitter people are just sucked into this addictive thing of being slamming other people, and it's like this is a real
yeah.
person that might read what you've just written, and it's about, and that's why there was a big furore with a guy on the telly, a celebrity, when he slated Meghan Markle and said that she should walk the walk of shame, which was a reference to Game of Thrones. And it's like and he was so graphic in the description. It's like, why would you say that? Why would you be that mean? This is another human being. Stop it.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. And so many people, because they are in fear for themselves, they don't feel they're worthy, they don't feel they're good enough, they don't feel confident in themselves. That's how they defend themselves, by lashing out at other people. So
Yeah, hurt
in,
people, hurt people, hurt people, right?
exactly. So in their world, how much love is there? So if we start
Yeah.
small with this and we just prove out the experiment, where else is it going to take you? Where do you see it in maybe 5, 10 years time? How do you see it expanding?
Well, I see there being communities all over the world that if they choose love, they can live a decent standard of life and take care of their families and the people that they love. I honestly see a new wave of this where people, and it might be 10 years, it might be 50. I don't know. I hope it's
Mm.
10. But I really believe that this, at some point in the future, we are going to know how love needs to be in businesses, how it needs to be in our food, it needs to be in our water, it needs to be in everything. And when we do, like, we'll be there because we're building the framework now. Because we know it. I know it deep down. I know that it's the answer that we're going to get to sooner or later. So And you know, a little bit of thing, I don't know if I would have the strength to keep going, to be honest, with the amount of like skepticism and, you know, like just the stuff that's out there, and fear is crazy. But there's some science. I don't know if you've heard of Power versus Force. It's a really interesting book, but
Mm.
they study the power of frequencies, and the two lowest vibrations that a human can hold is fear. Sorry, not fear. It's guilt and shame.
Yeah.
Fear is not far, but guilt and shame are the two lowest. And when someone is vibrating in a state of love, you're vibrating at over 500 on a scale of 1 to 1,000,
Hmm.
and you can offset about 100,000 people in guilt and shame. That's how exponentially more powerful it is.
Wow.
And for a child, it's even more. Their love is more powerful.
Yeah.
So the thing that keeps me going is knowing the numbers, knowing the science. Like, we don't have to get to 51% of the population to understand this, to shift it energetically. We only need a fraction of a percent, you know. So that's the good thing. Those 4,000, whatever you said, those 400 negative thoughts you had on your walk.
Yep.
If you just vibrate for a moment in love, you'll offset all of those and put yourself into credit energetically.
I
So
love that.
it's the power of love. Yeah.
Yeah, we did somebody in our community did that calculation for uh, membership of Collaboration Global, to where are you at to hit that tipping point, that point where, you know, you've come from a place of love and there's just a few people, and all of a sudden, and he said in the UK, because he did it's 1% of the square root of the population of blah blah blah, something like that, and he worked it out and he said it's 834. He said if you've got 834 members in the UK alone, that will hit a tipping point where everyone can exponentially find out about love, connection, and abundance and the community, and be involved. So that it does reach that tipping point when, you know, you struggle and you strive and you're working towards it and you think, am I crazy? Is nobody else listening to me? Is nobody else getting this? And then all of a sudden, you're off, and it will hit
Yeah.
that tipping point and you'll go.
Yeah. Well, the light is just so much more powerful than the dark. You know, it's this, you know, you can have a tiny little flicker of a candle in a fully dark room and it lights up the
Yeah.
place. It's
Yeah.
like that's the very positive thing about where we're at now. And certainly I'm grateful to know that, because it feels like you're making a lot more progress when it might seem to the you know, to others as you're making a little, you realize, you know, that you're making a big shift. So
Oh, absolutely. And what I loved you said earlier about food, when there's love in food. Me and my husband say this all the time. It's like, you know, I've made this meal with love, because you know when you're enjoying cooking it and you know who you're cooking it for, you put that extra soup salt of love sprinkled all over it, and they go, this is lovely. I really like this. I went, yeah, I made
yeah,
it with love. And when it
yeah,
wasn't made with love, and it's like, oh, look at the time, we've got to get out, we've got to have this, we've got to shove some food down us, and you're like, yeah, it wasn't that great. Sorry. You know, you
yeah.
can tell the difference when something is cared for and loved and appreciated.
Definitely. I mean, you always know if you've gone to a restaurant where the chef loves what he does, or
Oh,
you know if they just don't care, if it's just a job, you know, you can feel it.
yeah.
And it always tastes better when someone else cooks for you. If it's somebody that cares about you, always, you know.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And if the chef that loves what he's doing is having a night off and you're still going to your favorite restaurant, you go, yeah, it's not the same as normal. And then you find out he's off. It's like, oh, there you go. That's why.
Yeah,
And the
for
person
sure.
cooking wasn't too into it that night. It's
Yeah.
it's interesting how there are so many things that we flippantly say or do without realizing, as you say, it's the most powerful superpower that we have in the world is this love. And that's why I'm so fascinated by it, in that if Collaboration Global is a country, an online country, and that is the superpower that underpins everything that we do, then we will be able to overcome every obstacle that might come our way, because we can come together with love and deep connection and collaborate to solve any of the world's problems. Um,
Yeah.
and what you're doing as well is like, and here is a way to do it. There you go. There's one option. You could have a gazillion other options, but this is one option, because we're so in tune with each other around how powerful love is and what love can actually achieve. Um,
Yeah. 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 No,
it's a
it's
blessing. There's so many stories that you can find around. I mean, this when you get cured, when you've got a debilitating illness or a um, something that you don't know what's wrong with you. There's something wrong, but you don't know what it is. And then, bring love into the equation and see what happens. That it's like, it's not coincidence. It's not an accident. But we kind of poo-poo these stories, don't we? We put them to one side going, oh yeah, it's probably something that they didn't realize they did, but they did it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do, but it's getting harder and harder to do that now. You have to really have your head in the sand to take that approach now. Like there is
Mm.
the stuff that's coming out now is just completely flipping what people thought they knew, upside down.
Yeah.
It's a very real thing we're working with. Yeah.
Who are the leaders in that kind of scientific community? You said Joe Dispenza.
Yeah,
Um,
Joe Dispenza, I think, is the one that stands out for me. I mean, there's lots of people in the fringe, but he's really got the big budget now. He's putting, he puts a huge amount of money into the research. He's got some of the top scientists on the planet, guys that studied the biology and the effects of people in space on NASA missions and things, and
wow.
now studying what's happened. And the main doctor that he works with, agreed originally to come on board, but really more just like he was like, I was 99.9% sure that this was going to turn out to be the biggest joke. But he said, I did it. They were going to pay me. It was worth it. Why not? No one had done
Wow.
it.
Yeah.
And he said it was the single biggest shock in a good way, and single biggest surprise in his entire illustrious career, what they're starting to find out. Like love and
Mm.
meditation they've scientifically measured and like done in a controlled environment 86 different diseases that they've cured now through people that have been through his program. And these diseases are not diseases that you can swallow a pill and get better from. These are diseases that don't heal themselves. So yeah, it's already there, but he's really only been doing this research in the last several years, so it's
Mm.
getting a lot of momentum now.
Have you got in touch with Joe Dispenza and told him of your experiment?
People I know him, and we're just a little bit too early right now. So, we've only just started.
Yeah.
And when we get to him, I want to have a really, really good working model where we can show him some of our data. And but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm absolutely certain that at some point he will want to
Yeah.
be in, so we can collaborate because it's
Oh,
so aligned with his work.
yeah. That's when you hit the tipping point, isn't it? When the big boys start listening and then going, yep, yeah, let me recommend this guy.
Yeah, well, every single new donation we get, it's more people that are sending love every day. And now we know that it's that much more powerful. You
mm,
realize that every little bit shifts you exponentially further towards that tipping point. So yeah, when we get to the hardest part is in the beginning. It's getting this big, huge flywheel moving like inch
yeah.
by inch by inch, and it's just slowly getting momentum. But I mean, I can already see it, but it's that once we get a bit of momentum, it's going to be very hard to stop this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and part of the slowness of getting it going in the beginning is your learning space. Because as you're learning, so for example, if I had 100 members at Collaboration Global on day 2 of setting it up, I'd have been like, and it would have all collapsed around me. But I've spent my time doing it slowly, understanding that this system needs to be in place and that process has to be sorted out, and this isn't quite working. And bit by bit by bit, you can see the way forward and you can see it carrying on. And it's the same with you. When you start out, there are things you don't know, and that's why it's
Yeah.
good to pull in various people that have kind of done some of the journey before you, and they can say, oh yeah, we did this, don't do that wasn't very good, try this because this is what's working for us now. So this is your learning time, so it's exciting. It's like somebody said to me once when we first started out, it's scrappy. It's not polished, it's not professional, but it's scrappy because we're all really keen and we all believe in it and we all want it to work. And
Yeah.
you're not scrappy, you're very professional. But what I'm saying is,
Oh no, I'm scrappy right now. I can tell you. I can tell you. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to say that. Like it's when you're chasing something like this, there's no guidebook. There's no handbook for it. There's no one that's done it before. You can find people who've done cool things, but
yeah,
there's not been anything like this. So we have to be scrappy, because it's like we don't know. We're just stepping one step at a time, and just
Yeah.
just holding the vision. But yeah, I think one day we'll be very one day I'll be very I'm sure I'll look back on these earlier years and be very grateful for them,
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
a lot of character building stuff that's been going on since
Um,
the inception of this.
what I find as well is there are days when it's tough, right? Everything goes wrong that could go wrong. And that's why I sit there and sort of try not to cry and go, okay, Jill, don't do it. You don't have to do this. Stop it. Do something else. And I kind of sit there going, no matter how bad this day is, there isn't anything else I want to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it just gives you that reality check. When time gets tough or somebody says no or whatever it is that's gone wrong or the laptop's done something wrong, just like, okay, I'm going to give it up. I'm just going to not do it. And your heart will go, what? And it won't let you. It won't let you. So we're on a mission, and even the tough times are worth it. So, so worth it. I
yeah.
just got to ask one quick question. And I don't know if you have an answer for me or not, but you've had the near death experience, and obviously you've had a tumultuous life to leave home at just before you were 16. Do you have a faith? Did you always have a faith? Do you have a faith now? Is it something that you think God has given love on high, or is you just think this is something that's energetically part of the universe? How do you kind of
I
see?
always used to refer to it as the universe, and I always had faith in that.
Mhm.
I don't know why. I just always did. I think my heart was open, and I think that's the key. I think your heart open, you can feel it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I always had that, but now I've reframed it slightly because my experience has been with God or the Creator when I had my accident.
Yeah,
So, I guess it's revealed to you in different ways, and maybe it comes to you in ways that you can understand and interpret. But for me, yeah, my faith is not a religion per se, because I think that if I had to choose a religion or what my faith is, it would be love. That's the thing that I've recognized is like the underlying current or the heart of all the religions and
yeah,
great teachings is really love. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that just gets slotted on over the years to suit personal agendas and things like that.
yeah.
And so I can look at any religion and see beautiful truths in it, and I can also see stuff which doesn't resonate. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've,
I
I've
think
faith and love and God. Yeah.
that's beautiful. And ultimately, they're all one, aren't they? It's I always think of religion as man-made, and faith is a choice that you make for yourself. But God and love, to me, are one and the same thing.
Yeah, that's always resonated with me. It says like God is love in the Bible right at the beginning, and it's like, if you listen to any of the great songs, the Beatles, the All You
Yeah,
Need Is Love, like it's just like everything that stood the test of time that's really stuck in the culture, deep ingrained, whether it's a love song or a poem or a
yeah,
teaching or a spirit. Love's at the core of it. And I'm like, when are we going to listen? When are we actually going to take note of what all these people have left for us? These
yes,
clues they've spent their lives putting out there to plant it in our subconscious brain, how important it is. When are we actually going to start making choices that are based in that? And I think it's coming. But yeah,
yes.
we want
That
to
is
we
a
want to
good
hurry it up.
question. That is a good
Yeah.
question. When are we going to
Yeah.
start taking notice? That's perfect. So I'm going to ask the question that I ask all of our guests along the way. Think back to when you were like 7 or 8 and you had a really kind of happy time in your life. What can you remember something that you can share with us about what lit you up when you were a young boy?
Yeah, I was thinking about this before, and I just remember being just captivated by what was possible, like just I didn't have much, and I always had a real sense of lack, like why am I so unlucky? Why did this happen to me?
Mm,
Um, but I remember just dreaming a lot, really. I think I was most happy just dreaming about what could be like in my future. Like if I take control of this and I do things different and I don't follow the same path, like maybe I can, I can experience all this amazing stuff that I see out there around the world. And that was the big driver really to get away, because I felt I was so far from the truth that I just needed to get as far away as possible, and that I'd be closer to whatever the truth was or whatever the answer was. If I
Wow.
went to the other side of the world, I'd find myself closer, and that was sort of what I did. So
That's
yeah,
amazing for someone so young to come to that conclusion. Most people have to struggle through to their 20s or even 30s before they get to that kind of
yeah,
realization. And you were like, no, I'm going to find it. I'm going to go searching. I'm not going to wait and do a job and, you know, placate people around me. I need to do this. So you went off. I think that's amazing.
I've never done things the normal way, but I guess my great grandfather, I was very close to him, and I always used to stop by his house on the way home from school because he lived there where I'd walk, and he had chocolate biscuits and Coca-Cola, which
Perfect.
for us, that meant you were rich. Like we did not
Yeah.
have that in the house. So it was like I always felt really cool walking home with a friend, and we'd stop in and see my granddad, and he'd fought in the wars, he'd been a POW. He'd like he had all these stories. And for a kid that was born into this poor family who didn't have, the furthest we'd ever gone away was like an hour and a half on holiday to the beach.
Yeah.
Like I loved having those moments with him because it made me imagine going and seeing the world and going to all these places, and that absolutely gave me permission to have those dreams, because if he could do it, then I could do it. And I've since gone around the world many more times than he had, and I remember very clearly sitting with him just thinking one day I'm going to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, he would be so proud of you right now. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah, he was special.
Yeah, yeah. We're so blessed when we have someone like that in our life that you can look up to and have that connection. And he's still around now, isn't he? From the point of view, I mean, I'm assuming if he was your great granddad, he's possibly not on this planet right now, but he's still
Yeah,
with you, still watching over you, making sure that you know your crazy ideas are going to come to fruition. That's lovely. I
yeah,
love
yeah. I
crazy
always
ideas. This is the thing. There's crazy ideas from an outside looking in, but when you're in it and you're listening and you're talking to you, it's perfect common sense. It makes so much sense. It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, when you're in an insane world and most people call you crazy, I think I'll take that as a compliment. So
Yeah. And I love the fact that you've got a Philippine dad as well. I've told this story before many times, but I had a Jamaican a lady adopt me. Sort of, she came to our wedding and she went up to my mum and said, "I'm hello, Mrs. Tiny. I'm Jill's black mum." And my mother was like, "What's going on?" But she was someone to care for you at that level of taking you as you are and loving you and being there for you is just very special. So the fact that you went halfway around the world and you connected to somebody like that who took you in, how special is
yeah.
that family? That's
And
amazing.
and honestly, Jill, my Filipino parents are the two most absolutely incredible powerhouse people ever. Like my Filipino mum is the head of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce now. She's friends with the president. Like my Filipino dad is like head of the military, his friends, head of the police, the government. He can speak to the. He's got the guys that in the slums who work with him, right up to the politicians. He's got this incredible way of dealing with people from any walk
Yeah.
of life. And he's incredibly strong and hard, but I've always recognized his big heart at the center, which most people don't get to see, but I see it.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're incredible people. So I was very, very blessed.
You are walking a magical life, aren't you? This line that you're taking through your life is just some God's got his finger on you, making sure you're going in the right
Yeah.
direction. So
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like a couple of times he's sort of lost track and let me go
well,
ahead, but
he gets
he's
busy
he's
sometimes,
he's pulled me back. Yeah, yeah, no, he's got a lot to do. So, yeah.
Listen, Aidan, I am so excited to be with you on this journey and to follow where you're going and how you're taking it. And I'm excited for the people that are going to be receiving the donations, but also for the love that they're going to be sharing. So it gives them purpose and a reason to get out of bed every day and to see their life to get better every single day because of what you're doing. It's incredible. So thank you so much for being part of Collaboration Global, but also for this very precious hour that you've given us today on the podcast. If somebody wanted to get in touch to find out more about the world's greatest experiment, or just have a chat, or just to maybe put you on their podcast, what's the easiest way for people to get hold of you?
So I'm on LinkedIn or Facebook at Aidan Uttinger, but my the world's greatest experiment.com, or you can also actually, it's probably easier, twge.org. It's a bit easier to remember
Yeah,
spell.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you can reach out through to me there or through socials. But I can also give you contact information which you can post up if you'd like
awesome.
for anyone
Yeah, I
listening.
think I think people can find you, and also, of course, don't forget, as part of Collaboration Global, Aidan is often at our guest meetings. So if you fancy coming along to one of those, go to collaborationglobal.org and you can book yourself a space on one of our online sessions. The next one is well, it's the last Tuesday of the month. So come along and see Aidan at one of those. Until then, Aidan, thank you so much. And I wish you every success. And I'm sending loads of love in your direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Right back at you. Thank you for what you do.